right.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the ACE Performance Training Podcast with very special guest, Sensei Shintaro Higashi. He is a 6th degree black belt in Judo, as well as a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu. Good afternoon.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jessica.
Oh, of
Excited to be
course.
here. Yeah.
So how are you today? How's it going? Have you been just hanging out today, or did you have any classes this morning? Or
Yeah, so on Wednesdays I do a special training with Sensei Brian Glick. I don't know if you know this guy. He's
I've heard that name for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So you know John Danaher? He's kind of famous in the
Yes.
world of jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So Brian Glick is John Danaher's first black belt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of his first black belts. He's been training with Danaher for like 20 something years. And
Okay.
he's kind of a legend in the world of jiu-jitsu. He has 5 jiu-jitsu schools out in Brooklyn. And
Sweet.
he's a good friend of mine. And we've been friends for like, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. And I taught him judo and, he teaches me jiu-jitsu. So we kind of have like this give and take. And since it was a
That's
Wednesday,
awesome.
we did that. So we, probably spent, I don't know, 11 to like 2 o'clock, maybe like 3 hours just rolling, hanging out,
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
it was the
amazing.
best. Yeah,
That's
we
the
did a lot of
life.
leg lock stuff. No, it's great. It's the best.
Leg locks.
Yeah.
That's yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, we kind of want to find out a little bit about taking it way back to when you first started, Can you tell me a little bit about all that?
Yeah, so my father grew up in Japan, during World War II, and he was like, judo was his ticket out, right? His whole family, farmers, but, war like destroyed the farms in Japan. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So he grew up super poor, during that era, he was born in 1937. He's 84 now. So judo was a ticket out. He's very good at judo. So he went to Tokyo to, Kukushikan University, very famous.
Yes.
And then during the pioneering phase of judo, when judo was pushed out into the entire globe, he was one of the people selected to represent the university to teach judo in the United States.
Okay.
So he moved to New York, had me, and he was like, all right, this kid is doing judo. There's no option here. And I grew up doing judo since I was like 3.
Oh, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So at what age did you receive your black belt? Since I don't know how the judo system works. I know like in jiu-jitsu, you have to be like 19, even if you start at 5. So I'm assuming it's kind of similar, correct?
It used to be kind of a hard rule, but there's local promotional tournaments. So if you're a brown belt, you could compete in this tournament. And if you win certain matches in that tournament, you could automatically get promoted up.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
And then they recently capped that age. You can't be under, I think it was like 15 years old to compete in this thing. So I competed it, this is going to sound nuts, but I was 12 years old when I competed in that for the first time. And it was very scary, but I was a big 12. I was a big 12. I grew up really fast at an early age. People thought I was going to be a giant, but, I'm not that tall. I'm not that big. But I competed in that. And then, I won my matches. And then I did every 6 months, this promotional tournament happens. In Japan, they call it the Kohaku tournament.
Okay.
So essentially what they do is line you up in size order, and you have to beat 3 people in a row.
Okay.
Right. So you stand up there, guy comes or girl comes, you beat them. And then the next person comes, you beat them, and then if you beat 3 in a row, you could automatically go up to the next rank.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So
that's cool.
Just like in jiu-jitsu, there's stripes, right? 1 stripe, 2 stripe, 3 stripe. Same thing in judo. You go in as a brown belt, and then you beat 3 guys, you get a stripe. You go to the next one 6 months later, you beat 3 guys, you get another stripe, and then you get a black belt eventually. Nice. So I went through that system. So I was probably like 13, 14 when I got it.
Wow, that's cool.
But it's not fair, right? Because I'm like, I've been doing it since I was 3, and I'm going against guys. Maybe they're in their 20s, but they haven't been doing it as long.
Oh yes.
They had like a physical advantage, obviously, because it was like a soft, chubby kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I've noticed that even like in jiu-jitsu, those kids who started when they're like 4, they're like 15, so they've been training longer than me, right?
Yeah.
And they're just so good. It's awesome.
Yeah. Do you know Hiram Gracie?
Yes.
Yeah. So
like I don't know him personally, but I know who he is. Yes.
So he used to come to my club when he was like 15 years old. And
wow.
He's been doing jiu-jitsu his entire life, obviously, right?
Yes.
He's Hiram Gracie's son, and he came and he's a blue belt, right? But boy, was he good at jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yes. He's not like by anybody's standards, he wasn't a blue belt at the time,
Yes.
And so now I think he's a brown belt or a purple. I don't know what he is, but like he's progressing through the ranks, but he's way ahead of his other peers of other purple belt, so it's kind of like that, And I had that advantage of doing it since I was a little kid.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for you, like, when did you start doing the jujitsu? Like, because you started in judo, obviously. And I know there
Yeah.
is Nuwaza, right? Obviously, but
Yeah.
Be honest, when I took judo for a whole year, we didn't do a
Mm.
ton of that. So I don't know much about that.
Nah.
So like
Yeah.
what led you to the jujitsu part?
So the first time I was ever exposed to it, my friend was like, "Hey, I go to this jujitsu school," and this is like 15 years ago, maybe even more. Actually, it was more like 20 years ago. So no one really knew what jujitsu was,
Okay.
And he's like, "Why don't you come to my jujitsu school and check it out?" So like I went, and
Yeah.
Gregor Gracie was there,
Nice.
Gregor Gracie.
Yes. Yes.
He's the one that looks like a supermodel. He's very,
Yes. Yes.
very, very super
Yes.
photogenic with the supermodel
Suave.
wife. Yeah, that guy. So like I worked out with him and I was like, holy moly, this guy is freaking good.
Yeah.
He actually wanted to do more stand-up, which is pretty cool. And I was like, wow, this is a very, very interesting thing. Like this Nawaz is so superior to what I know. And then I was
It's
kind of
very
drawn
different.
into it. Yeah. So I spent, maybe like a summer training at this school near my parents' house when I was back home from the summer from college.
Mhm.
And then the guy gave me a blue belt on my first day, essentially.
Oh, wow. Nice. Well, because you
Actually,
had.
yeah. Actually, I went in with a judo black belt, and then we did judo. And then the next
Yes.
practice, I went with a white belt. And then the third practice, he was like, let's start you at blue. Was
Well,
kind
yeah,
of a thing.
because you had the
Yeah.
advantage.
Yeah. So I did that for a summer. And then I did a summer with John Donaher. It was like,
I'm so
yeah,
jealous.
it was pretty cool.
So,
It was pretty cool.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
really cool.
And then they gave me my purple belt, at the end of the summer.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
nice.
I don't want to like brag or anything, but it was like 6 months probably total until I got to that, purple belt. I don't want to say purple belt level, but I was able to wear a purple belt from a legitimized
Yes.
source,
Oh, yeah, that's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it was one of those things. It was like, oh, lasso this and rubber guard that. I'm like, I don't know any of those terms, really.
Well, yeah,
So,
yeah.
to me, it wasn't like a real purple belt. You know what I mean?
I get what you're
Yeah.
saying, but your skill
Yeah.
level, I'm assuming, you have your lapel chokes and your arm bars and all those things that you were probably just.
Yeah. And, I got a brown belt because one of my students was, one of my main judo black belt guys also became a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he gave me a brown belt and that kind of a thing. And I've been just kind of training since,
Yes.
with Brian on and off for probably like 10 plus years. And that's like the source of my jiu-jitsu. And, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that come to my judo club.
Yes.
So I work out with those guys,
It's
and
so good to do both.
yeah, you should do both, I think,
Absolutely. I feel like it's
Yeah.
kind of crucial.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's actually something I wanted to discuss, the differentiation and how you do. I feel like I noticed when I was taking actual judo classes, right, and how we did, like, for example, certain throws. I noticed that we had to switch it up a tiny bit for jujitsu because maybe your back's exposed or maybe you're at risk for this or that, right?
Yeah.
And so for you, was it pretty easy to just kind of figure all that out? Was it a quick transition, or do you have tips on that? Because like, as someone who cross trains, right, let's say you wanted to compete in judo, but you also want to compete in jujitsu. And so there's going to be a slight differentiation, correct, in like maybe how you throw or how you step into it, because maybe like a jiu-jitsu guy will turn that seoinage into like a back take or something, right? You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you think about that? What are your thoughts about all that?
You have to kind of have an instructor that knows,
Yes.
If the person is teaching you judo and he's like, this is the way I learned judo and this is the way it's going to be, has no clue what the point system in jiu-jitsu is going to be like, he's going to show you his judo, and there's a learning curve to the turn throws, a very, very steep one at that,
Yes.
And then the risk reward is not there. Even like in wrestling, right? If you're down by, 3 points or something, which is kind of a big margin, you throw the person with a headlock, you get 2 for takedowns, 3 for back point. It's a 5-point technique.
This is true.
Big thing. You go for it. So it's like risk reward, high risk, but high reward, right?
Yes,
in
absolutely.
jiu-jitsu, you don't get rewarded for any of that. So if you miss, you're just essentially giving up your back. And if you haven't spent tons of time doing it, it's really not worth even attempting, because the points are not even that much to begin with. It's actually even better if you just trip them past their guard. If you land in cycle drill, because now,
then you can go to mount, get the 4 points.
You can even like stick your leg. Hey, can you grab the leg so I could repass your guard for points? So you can still do that too.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
So, if the guy who you're learning from, guy or girl, right, you're learning from knows sort of the game, then you could kind of ask them specifically, like, what is the best move for jiu-jitsu? Like for you, probably tomoenage would be the best. Because you
Yes.
could spam tomoenage in jiu-jitsu, spam it. Every round, every roll that you do, you could go for it 6 or 7 times. And
Yep.
if you miss 6 or 7 times, it doesn't matter because you're in open guard. You're
Yeah.
learning that thing, right? Essentially you're teaching yourself and you're getting reps in, and without
Yep.
the guy or girl getting frustrated.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if you're learning judo from a guy that doesn't do tomoenage, then he's not going to be able to teach you tomoenage.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's where, I think tomoenage is the first and foremost technique for jiu-jitsu practitioners.
Yes.
Faking tomoenage and doing ankle picks, knee picks, kochi ochi to time their guard pull. I think that's sort of like the overall system for jiu-jitsu people.
Yes.
And that's what I sort of preach. And there's a lot of people who are kind of like doing that now, I think.
That actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think about that last one. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense for the guard pull. Yeah, I didn't think. I didn't make that kind of. Yeah, that's great.
Keenan Cornelius, he's like a jiu-jitsu guy. So he's learning from Justin Flores, who was a Division I wrestler and a judo guy. Maybe you've seen his stuff on Instagram, JFlo. I'm 1,000% sure you've seen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I follow like all those. But yes.
Yeah. So he is teaching Keenan some of the stuff, like when the guy goes for guard, pulling guard, it's like you time a kochi, you time an inside trip. They're kind of giving you the off balance and the kazushi, right? Yes. So whether you're actually throwing them or not, they're pulling guard anyway. It could look like you've actually taken them down. You get points
as long as you do it right, as long as you get that foot on the floor and.
Yeah. So, once you have that, then you could open up your tomoenage and then you could play this back and forth game, right?
Yes.
Tapping here, faking pull guard. You could fake pulling guard and then go ankle pick, and then you go back to the tomoenage. So now you've created a system, and now they're like, I don't like this, and then they lock up, and then you could bomb him with an osotogari or something.
Yes, that's because they stand up and they're and that's one of my favorite throws. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good one. Hard to hit in jiu-jitsu.
It is, it's funny, like obviously against white, like lower belts, it's pretty, but anyone who does like most jujitsu players take a wrestling stance, right? So it's kind of hard to even get them stand up like that because they're all like,
And so, you ever heard of this guy who did Bernardo, Bernardo Faria? I'm like name dropping.
Absolutely. Hey, I know all these people. I'm trust me, I'm on it. Yeah.
So Bernardo used to come to my judo club too.
Awesome.
And he was fighting a guy in the finals always that would do like this drop half sanagi.
Okay.
It was like he does like a collar drag, drop half sanagi. I can't remember the guy he used to go back and forth with.
So did he not like shoot in first? He just brought you down kind of deal?
Essentially, but like that I call it like a quarter turn drop sanagi.
Okay.
Because you don't turn all the way, you just do like a half turn and you just pull them down really hard.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
That works when the opponent's doing jiu-jitsu stance.
Yes.
But it'll never work when the person's upright.
Okay.
So, and the movement is almost essentially exactly like a drop sanagi, except you're not giving your back all the way because you're doing a quarter turn instead. So like that's a great one to be able to, if you do judo, you have the drop sanagi movement to do a little bit less of a turn and apply it immediately in jiu-jitsu. So like that's one that I would highly recommend learning.
Makes sense.
You don't even need to learn it if you've done judo because you probably already do it.
Yeah, because we did the regular and the drop sanagi many times, obviously, to make you drill
it's a lot easier to do. And it's a lot safer.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You could just shoot you could go for an ankle pick from there. So
that's
I would
true.
do that. You are capable of doing that already.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And then you also did wrestling, correct?
Yeah, I wrestled in high school and college.
And I've noticed that it's cool to see that there are certain things like a hip toss, for example, that kind of translates between like wrestling and judo. But are they done slightly differently, like in wrestling?
Yeah,
like
different lengths, different ranges. Judo, you can control someone out here because you're holding the lapel.
Right? Yeah, you're like,
yeah. If I'm holding my arms out here, he can't escape that way, right? Or close the distance. But in wrestling, it's like I could keep him away, but I can't really pull him in if my arms are extended.
Yes.
Right. So the distance is a little bit different. And then, the ability to close the distance and then control the opponent, it's a little bit different also. So you have to make these adjustments. And, if you do some purebred wrestling stuff where you're shooting in on the legs all the time, obviously it changes because the stance is different. It's a lower.
You have to drop your level and you have to,
But if you watch Russian wrestling, so if you ever Google Russian wrestling highlights, like if you take the best wrestlers in Russia and see their national championships, boy, does it look like judo.
Really?
Yeah, you'll see it and you'll be like, this
That's
is
cool.
10
I'm gonna
times
look that up.
more. Oh, you gotta look it up. It's
Yeah.
10 times more interesting than I don't want to say like interesting than American wrestling, but the highlights are just spectacular.
That's awesome.
Because they do a lot more cross training over there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I believe in. I'm huge in the cross training thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you should do all of it, Muay Thai,
Yeah.
wrestling,
Muay Thai's awesome.
Dutch kick,
fun.
Dutch kickboxing,
Yeah.
all of it. Like, and as well as working out, and every.
Yeah. I love working
right.
out.
Yeah, you got to do it all, right? And then you have to recover.
You should do it all.
And then you have to recover because I don't know. I found that whenever I took a judo class, right, like my body felt a little. I mean, the way we break fall in judo and jujitsu are very different. I noticed the way the jujitsu people taught break fall, it's like two hands, but with judo, it was always kind of like sideways with one hand. Like it was very different, right? And so I always noticed that after judo class, like my body felt, the shock absorption, even though you break fall. And so like, what do you do? Because you obviously get thrown probably and throw people way more than most. What do you do to recover your body? Like, because that's kind of an important thing. I think a lot of people don't think about as a martial artist.
It's tough to, different now than before, when I was competing and stuff. But like you just said, like it's different energy systems. If you look at judo, it's a lot more like high intensity interval training.
Yes.
Hard on the body, short bursts, lots of like ripping motions and fast and explosive, and just really puts a lot of stress on your body versus jiu-jitsu, which is more like low intensity, steady state cardio, like list cardio,
Yes.
You can kind of choose to do like long-term, slow sort of flow roll situations.
Yes.
Right. And a lot more like isometric contractions, like when you have, the hook sit and the seatbelt grip, you're like
and you're
holding
just hanging
tight,
out. Yeah.
And you're looking for an opening on the chin, and then so you're just slow burn, right? Slow exertion, as opposed to judo. It's like you got to put your hands on and rip it,
Yeah, right away. Yeah.
So you kind of have to alternate between the two different types of training. And if I do like a hard judo session on Monday, which I don't usually do on Mondays, now I'm 37, so I'm a little bit different. But like Mondays, I would like get my really heavy lift in and things like this, and then I'll do like really light cardio. I go in and it'll be like sort of a technical thing. Wednesday I do hard, jiu-jitsu training with Glick. In the evening, like I lifted this morning, and then Friday I might do hard rounds, right? Because then I roll into the weekend and I kind of hang out, and my knee hurts, my back hurts, and then by the time Monday rolls around, I'm ready for my bench day,
Yeah.
So you have to like, upregulate, downregulate, and then kind of manage the intensity in the training, or you just never make it. Everyone goes super hard from the beginning all the time. You put too much mileage on your body, and one day it's gonna go.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you plan to train indefinitely, which like I do, right? So like you want to train smart, right? Like, and that's one thing that I think it's important to have that balance. And a lot of people don't focus on that, right? And it's super important. And it's good to hear that someone's so high level, because it's a lot of new people. It's always the new people, right? When I was new, same thing, right? I was training super hard and not healthy, right? Because it was too much. And you start getting injured. That's how you're doing it too much. Like you start getting injured. You're like, oh, like.
I mean, sometimes it's just beneficial to just do one or two positions. No one likes to hear this, but like, everyone knows deliberate drilling, deliberate training is sort of the way to go. Like if you look at tennis, high backhand is like a problem for you. Then how many times are you exposed to that? I could play tennis with my friend all day. How many times am I exposed to that stimulus? 5, 6 times. I miss all of them. But you have a coach that's like, all right, I'm only going to hit to that one spot, and you're going to hit the ball there, 870 times today.
Yep.
You're going to be exposed to that enough, and you're going to get good at it. But no one wants to train like that. It's really boring.
But they don't.
I don't like to train like that.
I mean, I don't like to either. However, I realize as a biomechanics person, I'm like, it creates autonomic nervous system reactions, right? When you drill something 1,000 times, then what happens is you don't even have to think about it. You could literally do jiu-jitsu in your sleep or judo in your sleep or whatever, because you've drilled it so many times that it's just there. So that's, I feel like it's important to create that, because that way I don't have to think, right?
True. Very true. Yeah, absolutely right.
And that's why I always tell my students, I'm like, trust me, I know it sucks, but it's kind of necessary, Yeah,
but sometimes there's things to be said about like for it to be just fun too, because if it's not fun, then it's not really worth doing, right? So
that's true.
Absolutely hate drilling, and then it's like, okay, you're setting yourself up for some resistance, but
It kind of depends on your goal, I think, right? Like, what's your
Yeah.
goal in your art? Like, if you want to be like a fierce competitor or something, well, then you're probably going to have to drill. But if you're just doing it like to just relax and have something physical, then I mean, whatever. Like,
there's plenty of people that just get enough out of just coming to the gym, talking to, friends and rolling, breaking a sweat, and then calling it a day,
Oh yeah,
totally. I think that's
just
the majority of people get better, quality of life outcome from that than actually.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Than making like a whole career out of it, where they just like, that's life.
It's tough to make a career out of this.
I mean, these kids these days, I'm like, I'm turning 31, and I see these like 16-year-olds, like, like Kolabate, and I'm like, these kids are crazy. They literally train from like 6 a.m. Do they even go to school? Like, they're just like professional athletes, and it's crazy.
Yeah, that's what it takes. Yeah.
And that's why it's like a lot of people compare themselves to that, and it's like, that's another level, right?
Yeah, another level.
So right now, are you still doing judo competitions? Like, do you actively compete? Are you just more teaching?
No, more teaching. I haven't competed in a couple of years. Probably my last one was nationals in 2019 or something like this. It's been a little while.
And do you find you enjoy teaching more than you enjoy competing?
It's tough to say. Like, the competition, like, there's some validation there for sure, right? You go in, you compete, you win something, it feels great. People are high-fiving you. Teaching judo, I'm not teaching it at a super high level. I don't like teaching like, my goal isn't to pump out Olympic champions at my club. I don't really get reward from that much. Athletes tend to be, selfish bastards, as you know. Right.
Yes.
So, and they're looking for the next best coach always. And that's just how it is. And yes, you could impact the kid's life. But I think the person who kind of, feeling really bad about themselves, and you could give them a community and they could train and feel really good. And, that could really change someone's life. You could do it at a much bigger scale if you're teaching, and the love of it, like, make sure whatever you're teaching is interesting enough for people to love it. Right. That way people are going to get good at it. People are going to keep coming back. That's much more of a better model. So I get a lot of fulfillment out of that. Do I enjoy teaching basic double leg takedown, for the 19 millionth time? No, I freaking hate that. Do I enjoy doing privates? No, I hate it doing that too. You know what I mean? Like, in the beginning, you want the privates.
Well, right? It gives you experience, like, because you have to teach, and
And relatively speaking, the money's pretty good if you're doing privates, but you get to a point when you're like, oh man, I'm not doing anymore. No more. I'm not taking on, you do it, right?
Yeah.
So, I think I get different things out of the training in judo now. I love exploring things. I love teaching to people I want to teach. And that's like my main facet of my philosophy. Yes. I don't like teaching everybody. I want to teach people who I'm emotionally invested in, and I like teaching people who I want to teach. And then the rest of the people are there because I want to teach it. And they're here, it's like, I don't serve the dojo. The dojo kind of serves me at this point. And it's nice to get there, and I think I'm spoiled in, so many ways to have that. But, that's sort of where I am now with the judo, and I get to, see my students do well, and I get to work out, and, just the whole health mentality is like, it's everything for me. So
it's a lifestyle.
Keeps me sharp. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's great. Keeps you engaged, and yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I do miss competing a little bit.
It's funny. I compete more because to help my students, you feel me? Like, so I know what they're going to have to like mentally prepare for, and what's everyone doing right now. Like, everyone's doing buggy chokes or whatever, right? Like, just kind
buggy chokes. Yeah.
get an idea of the current, fad, and just so I kind of prepare them.
Yeah.
I don't even care necessarily. I know it sounds weird, but I'm like not in there like, I'm going to win. It's more just like, I'm here for the experience. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be fun. I'm going to meet new people, right, who like also train. Yeah. And I've actually
people in martial arts.
I've made a lot of friends. Like, all my friends now are pretty much from either jiu-jitsu or judo or wrestling or something, right? It's like,
nice. Yeah. That's how it becomes, you speak this language that only other martial artists can speak. And now all of a sudden it's like, you go to a kid's birthday party and you're talking to all the dads out of shape, and you're like, hey guys, watch the UFC, and they're like, they don't speak the language.
Yeah, it's definitely, I
Yeah.
would say, a different tribe of people, a community. You're kind of people who are fighters in general, whether you do striking, judo, wrestling,
Yeah.
jujitsu. It doesn't really, even people who work out,
Yeah.
on a daily basis. I feel like we're all kind of in this health mindset, right? Like,
Yeah.
but martial arts is a little different because it requires
Mm.
a different level of discipline, in my opinion,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Like,
It's a very self-improvement oriented tribe.
yes,
So,
yes,
and there's some people who are weirdly super philosophical and some people who are just like, I want to learn to kick ass. And
yeah.
it's a very interesting group of people for sure.
Like you got your Danaher's, right? You
Yeah.
have like he's definitely, because I definitely like to think about it a lot. So that's why when you
Yeah.
mentioned him, I'm like, oh yeah, I know who
Yeah.
that is. Yeah. So, and then for you, like, what would you recommend to anybody who is doing like jujitsu or judo right now, or let's say wants to start, but they're kind of nervous, or, maybe have always been curious, like, what would you say to somebody who,
I think you could do a lot just by just looking at YouTube and watching videos online and stuff. And then, really be an educated consumer before you even go into these gyms. If you watch a lot of these
yes,
videos, you can tell like what's good and what's not good. And I mean, you're not going to know in the beginning, but the more exposure you have to it, you're going to be able to be more equipped to make these decisions. And then even when you're
yes,
looking for a gym, you should shop around a little bit. I'm not saying like, just go to only open mats and never pay the community, or I'm not saying that, but
yeah,
go in there and get a vibe. And really, the culture of the gym is everything. Do I feel safe in this environment? Number one, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
especially for women, it's like, hey, do I feel like there's a lot of creeps in here, or do I feel safe? Are these
yeah,
people nice? That's another one,
yeah,
right? So, immersing yourself and, shopping around in that sense, I think is very important. And then when you join a
absolutely,
gym, be a value add in the room. You want to be the person that you want to train with. I think
yes,
that's the number one rule.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, make sure you're not just there for you, you're there for your team, right? Like, we're all helping
Yeah.
each other get
Yeah.
better, right?
Because
Too.
if I'm a
Yeah.
plus one and then, I'm working out with you and I have your interests in the back of my mind and say, hey, I can't crank on this arm, or hey, maybe this person's working
Yes.
on that. And then I'm not being presumptuous and like, let me show you this freaking thing that you're doing it wrong. That's presumptuous to assume
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But let me just be there for you to work out. And then if the other person in the room has that mindset for me and the other person for me, and I'm doing it for them, now you kind of have like a collective in the room where
Yes.
like
Yes.
everyone's pushing each other, looking out for each other, not being annoying by like, let me show you this tink out. I saw it, not being that person.
Yeah. Don't be that
Now
guy.
all of a sudden, yeah, don't be that person. That's the worst person.
Yes. Yes.
You're doing it wrong. It's like, oh, stop.
Yeah, it's like unless you're the instructor who taught the move, like, and you're
Yeah,
correcting me,
yeah,
that's different. But otherwise, yeah, no.
yeah, yeah.
Totally, totally. And so for like your your school, it's so for
Hmm.
judo, it's called dojo, correct? Like
Yeah,
we.
yeah.
So what would someone call a place that offers like all of it? Like, would it be called like, because with jujitsu gyms they just call it like a gym, right? Or like or
Yeah,
sometimes they called
yeah.
it. So I was always curious about that, like what
I
are
think
they?
dojo is good for all of it. I've
Yeah.
heard people say like, hey, I own a jiu-jitsu dojo. I've heard that
Okay.
before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your dojo, its history,
Mm.
obviously you said your dad was one of the first people, right, to bring it
Yeah.
over. And so that's basically the lineage of your,
Yeah.
because you just came straight over. So it's kind of like a
Mm.
nice direct.
Yeah.
Uh, and I like the fact that, and where is it located?
It's on the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Nice,
Yeah, and
nice.
I have another one in Chelsea. But I have two
Okay.
partners down there. So that's a much more of a shorter in terms of history because it's really pretty new.
It's like a satellite location,
It's a
kind of.
different it's a different gym period.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
partially own that one too. It's like one of those guys.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. And so then do you ever like go do seminars, like judo seminars and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just did two recently. I did one in North Dakota. I did one in Vegas. I
Okay.
used to do a lot more when I was a little bit younger. And then the pandemic thing happened and I shut it all down. And then I was kind of like, do I want to get back into that? And then I did two and it was great.
Okay.
But, I have a 4-year-old at home.
Yes, I know how that is being a
So,
parent.
yeah. Yeah. So it's like, it's
Yes.
tough to, burn a weekend with my kid, for X amount of
Yes.
dollars.
I
Right.
totally get that, right? When you become a parent, things
Yes. Yeah.
your priorities change.
And that's a big reason why, I'm not trying to blame, I have a kid, that's why I'm not going to compete anymore. I'm
No,
not
it's
saying that.
like a
There's lots of
good thing.
reasons.
No, yeah.
Yeah. But, like to do judo at a high level, you have to go international. Like, what am I going to compete in a local tournament?
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to compete at the level that I want to compete at, it's going to be, collecting international Olympic points on the international circuit, South American tour, Asia tour. They have a European tour. They have the Grand Prix and the Grand Slams, and this one's worth that many points. And that requires, 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time doing a tour,
Yes,
So it's
that's
like
a long
6
time.
weeks in Europe, come back for 3 weeks. The South American tour starts, 2 months from now. I'm away for 8 weeks. Like, I'm not going to do that with a kid at home.
Not when they're that young too, because so much happens so short. It's like crazy.
Yeah, so short. Yeah, now she's like, I don't want you to go to the dojo, she says to me now.
Oh, you're like, oh.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah, the guilt trip is like real. And it's like, take me with you. It's like, you got to go to school today. And then it's like, are you going to be home from when I get home from school? And it's like, no, because I'm going to be doing jiu-jitsu with Brian Glick. Like, and then she's like, no, and it's like, it breaks your heart.
Yeah, I get it. I totally
the seminars, they're great, but I did 2 recently, and I really did feel like, oh man, like, 3 days here, 3 days there. Yeah. So I'm telling myself maybe I'll do 1 every quarter.
Yeah, just like, and then when she's older, or something.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
Oh man. Okay. So one's 22 weeks. One is turning, thank you. One's turning 3. And then in August, and the other one's turning 5 in October.
Wow.
So they're all little itty bitty nuggets. Yes.
How cute is that though? Isn't it so cute?
They are. Have
you started training them martial arts?
Yes. The middle one, not so much. Unfortunately, she has autism, makes it a little hard. It's okay. But my older one, he's super into it. Like, he's got a pretty good low single. Like, he's on it. Like, he's like, come on, I want to do jujitsu. Let's throw on the mitts. He's all about all of it. He really loves watching judo a lot. And so I'm so glad that our student is the judo, because I'm like, can you teach him?
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Such a good
time. And how about you? Have you started getting her into it?
I did, but it's like, there's a lot of emotions there too, because it's like I had a dad who was like super into it, and his methodology probably wasn't the best for me. Even though the outcome was pretty good, like it was pretty uncomfortable, many times throughout the journey. And it's like, do I want that same discomfort for my kid? Do I feel like it'll affect, because I'm a single dad, right? So it's like, the mom's in medical school and she's away. So, do I want to make it a freaking hard-nosed thing and affect how I interact with my kid, which right now is very gentle and sweet and all this stuff. And then, right. So it's a kind of a delicate balance. I also don't want her to hate it.
I feel you. Yeah.
And it's a tough life. Yeah.
If
you want to compete hard, it's a tough life.
Yeah. I feel like boys are probably naturally a little more into it, right? Because they're just
naturally.
I want to, So I could imagine the girls kind of,
Let me tell you something. We see the people who are at the top, right? But for every person at the top, there was probably like 5 or 6 kids just as good as them that kind of had an unfortunate thing happen that they couldn't get to that level.
Yes.
I've seen that. This guy broke his arm. This guy broke his leg. The parents ran out of money. All these different things. So it's not really like, that's why when I see these champs now, it's like, oh, I'm the best because I'm the best. And, but a lot of it's luck too. You had a multitude of factors go your way, and all these other counterparts that could have been just as good as you, tore his ACL too early on and then quit, or, something unfortunate, like really unfortunate happened to them.
Yes.
So, it's a tough thing to put all your eggs in that basket. And then I think some of the best champions in the world have put all their eggs in that basket.
Yes.
But do I want that, life for my kid? It's tough to want that. I want her to be very well-rounded, well-adjusted, good
so
academics, have the options to, if she wants to be a lawyer, she can be a lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I want that for her.
Like not imposing your lifestyle, but rather just kind of guiding them, for what they want to do. It's kind of the best way to, in my opinion, that's the best way to do it,
Yeah. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And I respect that. I'm a parent. I get it 100%.
It's tough.
See, I'm very lucky, our business is on the property, so I don't have to be away. Right.
Like, that's great. Yeah.
So it's different if I had to like commute. and leave, I think probably I'd be doing a lot less. You know what I mean? Like, so I get it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Cool. And weird question: have you ever competed in jiu-jitsu? Have you ever done those tournaments?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second. I can't.
Okay. Did you compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament?
Have I competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament before?
Yes. That was the question.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're coming in clear now. Yeah,
Sorry.
I have. I
Okay.
fought in like 2 jiu-jitsu tournaments.
Okay.
Yeah, I did great. You know, it was fine.
Did you do a throw, or did you do the Thomas?
Yeah, I threw them.
Okay. Yeah, that's normally how it goes.
Yeah, it was good. You know, landed in side control, and I think it was like
perfect.
You know, did the under the collar and then the cross choke situation, and that was good.
Nice.
One guy got hurt. He hurt his rib, but it was good. It was good. You know, it wasn't super high level. It was like, you know, purple belts and brown belts, something like that.
Fun though. Yeah, I feel like jiu-jitsu is super fun.
Yeah, more. I was gonna do more, but you know, boy, is it hard for me to burn a whole Sunday and, you know, expose myself to that, you know, to the essentially potential loss too, right? It's like, you know, I'm kind of known also. So, you know, it's a little bit like, you know.
That's true. You got like that kind of like reputation, right?
Yeah, I got the reputation, you know, and it's like, I don't want to get exposed to getting injured because my lifestyle kind of depends on it.
Yes.
You know,
yes, absolutely true. And
competition,
you know, they go 100%.
They do. And this is the thing too. It's like, if I'm going to compete, I want to be at the top of my game. I don't want to be limping into a tournament just saying like, yeah, I can kind of, you know, I can't compete that way. Like knowing myself, if I'm going into it unprepared, I'll be very, very insecure and self-conscious. Like, man, I didn't do enough to be here. I don't deserve to be here. You know, and I'll get in my head before I even get out there. Could I still do well? Probably, you know, but you know, from the days of me,
that sounds stressful. Like, what's the point if it's not fun, right? Like we were saying.
Yeah, it won't be fun.
Yeah.
You know, because it'll be like, oh, you know, like I don't belong here not because of my competition, because I'm not the best self that I'm going to be.
Yes, that makes sense.
So I'd have to dedicate training time, like real training. And I know what real training is. I'm not doing any of that now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like
I know
maintaining and hanging out. You know, I know from the days of like being around, you know, Olympic medalists and being around like real athletes. Like, I'm not a real athlete anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you got to put 6 to 8 hours a day, you know, consistently over many, many years. So it's like, have I ever put that time into jiu-jitsu? No. At the very best, I roll with Brian for 2 hours a week, once a week.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really, and you know what? I'm not going to compete in some purple belt, blue belt division. You know, I shouldn't, that's, you know, it's not fair. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm going to do it, it's going to be in black belt division. And then, you know, these people are training full time, and I want to be prepared for that, you know, and I just don't see the time. I don't have the time to train for it.
See, and that's kind of what I was thinking, like with judo. I was like, do I ever want to compete in judo? I'm like, man, like, you know, then I have to, it's like hard to focus on 2 different, I was just like, no, that seems like a lot.
You got to learn the rule set.
Yeah.
The game is very different with the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. And they do. And these people, that's what they do. Like, you know, and I'm like, and then I'll feel all bad that I did, you know, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I'll just do judo for fun. Like, you know, like.
And California's a tough state for that. California's high level judo.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I got lucky. I loved it, you know, so
nice.
I'm excited to start doing it again. So
yeah, good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for like taking this time to talk to me.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I really appreciate it. I'm pretty sure everybody else really appreciates it, and, you know, hearing about your journey. And definitely, if you're in the area, go check out his academy. What's your academy called?
Kokushibudo.
Go check it out. Definitely. Yep. And you post a lot of technique videos and stuff, huh?
Yeah, I have it on. I have a lot on YouTube. It's like 120,000, whatever it is.
Just like, definitely check that out.
If you send me some like graphics and links to your podcast, I could definitely repost it on my thing too.
Absolutely. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. I hope everybody has a good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.